Hello, everybody. Christmas is going to have a new Steeler and a new nightmare to ruin it. And it sure ain't going to be the Pumpkin King or the Grinch doing it this time.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
I'm not even supposed to be here today! Oh, fuck you!
Come on, you want me to drive? You're supposed to be suicidal. Remember,
I'll anybody
drive. Get in the car.
Fucking shit! Fuck me in the fucking ass! Fuck you, you fucking stupid cunt!
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I am here with a brand new movie review. This movie review is going to be for 2024's newest release, Terrifier 3, the third entry of the Terrifier series, and directed by Damien Leone, that came out on Canadian Thanksgiving weekend. So, what's the plot of Terrifier 3? Well, set after the events of Terrifier 2, and after surviving Art the Clown's Halloween massacre, Santa and her brothers struggle to rebuild their shattered lives. As the holiday season approaches, they try to embrace the Christmas spirit and leave the horrors of the past behind. However, just when they think they're safe, Art returns and he's determined to turn their holiday cheer into a new nightmare. Well, how was Terrifier 3 made? Well, following the critical and commercial success of Terrifier 2, Damien Leone began writing for the third film with plans for an overarching narrative. Leone wanted to feature Victoria more prominently, and he regretted leaving the character underdeveloped in the first film, and this time we feature her in an antagonistic role. The script even develops the character Santa Shaw further and explores themes of trauma, survivor, guilt, and good and evil. Yep, then of course, we all know the next year, they confirmed Terrifier 3 was going to be releasing in October 2024, and the craziest thing is, it was going to be Christmas themed, hence why you're seeing me wearing this beard and the Christmas hat on my Art the Clown mask. Yeah, and how the teaser got released was Terrifier 2 got re-released for one night to feature the Terrifier 3 teaser at the very end credits. Then around December 2023, Chris Jericho got confirmed to appear in Terrifier 3, then they confirmed Daniel Roebuck to appear in April 2024 as Santa Claus, and Tom Savini was going to be appearing, Tom Savini from Creepshow was going to be appearing briefly in Terrifier 3. And also Jason Patric from The Lost Boys, as well in June 2024. He actually plays, he pretty much plays Sienna's dead dad in some flashbacks. That's what he plays. And some other cast members got announced in July 2024. Annabella Rose, Kirsty Fox, Clint Howard, John Abrahams, they were all set to appear as well. Yep. And they were going to begin filming in November, December 2023, but the strike happened, and so filming began in February 2024 and wrapped in April 2024, and additional scenes were completed in New York until earlier mid-June. Damien Leone wanted to shoot the film using Panavision lenses to make the film look like a vintage John Carpenter movie. So after Terrifier 3 was shot and marketed, a little more widely this time, believe it or not, surprisingly for this franchise, the first time. It would first premiere at the Fantastic Fest on September 19, 2024 to kick off Fantastic Fest. But then, of course, was released this Friday on October 11th. And, of course, much like the last film, this one also got positive reviews from critics. And guess what, guys? At the box office, this film dethroned Joker Folie à Deux from the number one spot with over 18 million domestically on its opening weekend. And surprisingly, for an unrated horror film, this got released in over 2,550 theaters. So that's pretty shocking to hear, because while Terrifier 2 was so successful, so Canada was pretty much like, fuck it, let's put it in this theater then. Because they decided to finally put Terrifier 2 in theaters after the public demanded it. So, they put Terrifier 3 in theaters right away when it came out. Now, as for my reaction, like you all should know, I absolutely love the first two films because since I got into them 2 years ago, around the time Terrifier 2 released, and it was getting widespread attention during Halloween Horror 3. So I watched Terrifier for that one, and then I watched Terrifier 2 when it hit streaming. And guess what, guys? These films too, I'll get them out. This one's behind me. Yeah, like, even bigger example, I even own both of them on Blu-ray and DVD. Even have an Art the Clown mug, an Art doormat that's under this tripod right here, and I even have the Art the Clown costume, and I'm wearing the Art the Clown mask with these upgrades because Terrifier 3 is a Christmas movie this time, and not a Halloween movie this time. But it is kind of weird that this got released this weekend and not in November, maybe November 1st would have been a better release date. Maybe a much nicer release date, you know? Because, yeah, I get they want to release these around, like, October time, but if this is a Christmas movie, why not just release it in November? November 1st. Like, release it the day after Halloween. Because, like, once Halloween's over, many people start getting ready for Christmas, like, really early. So, November 1st would have been kind of a better time to do it. That's just me, though. But anyways, guys. Just saw the movie finally today, and how was this movie, you may ask? Well, this was easily, in my eyes, probably the best horror movie of the year. Now the thing, those who are calling it the best of the franchise, did I think it was the best of the franchise? I'm gonna have to say no. It's a bit of a minor grade down in my eyes, because there was some kind of bad qualities I didn't really like about this film. If you know what I mean, I'll get to that stuff later. Like, Terrifier 2, I think, was the better film. Because, like, there's times this one does feel kind of a bit anticlimactic and all that, but it was still another phenomenal horror sequel, and surprisingly great for a third horror entry, surprisingly. Like, in many examples of a horror franchise, usually those movies always are the ones that cause the franchise to go downhill, but there are some rare ones that can be good, like there's Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, Army of Darkness, Child's Play 3, Saw 3. Like, there's times when it can work, if you have the right material, and this is one of those films that actually really does well work. One of the few third entries that actually be great. I like how Damien Leone clearly saw some of the criticisms with the second movie's tone, and decided that he was going to improve some of that. And first of all, the movie's not 138 minutes long, it's now a simple 125 minutes long, and it surprisingly goes by a little bit shorter this time. This movie does kind of ditch some stuff of the fantasy elements, because while I do like Terrifier 2, the one scene I do not like in the film is when Sienna gets thrown into the water tank by Aerith and gets revived by the magical sword. Yeah, the sword shit in Terrifier 2 I do not like. I will admit that, but I was willing to forgive that, though, because I still had a blast watching the rest of the finale and had a blast watching the film. So I can forgive that one. Reason why I put this one slightly lower than Terrifier 2 is because, well, the finale was a bit anticlimactic, and there was one certain maybe death that kind of pissed me off. But it's definitely the second best film out of the Terrifier series to date. It's like the tension, the dark humor, and the gruesome, gnarly gore, they're all still here. Like, it's a violent tale told in the eyes of a horror king who has this perfect love for past horror flicks that come to define the genre, and the movie's not even boring. And it's definitely the best horror film of 2024. Right there. I'd say this and Quiet Place Day 1 are tied for the best horror films this year. Terrifier 3, it's still not a film for the squeamish. Terrifier 1, especially for those that may have found Terrifier 1 and 2, okay, that was fine, but this one proves you wrong. Like, this film, if you guys think Terrifier 2 is graphic, wait till you watch this. This one gets even more gorier right there, but it's definitely also just as entertaining as the other two films. It has some of the most creative kills in a lot of slasher films that were released in the past, and Damien Leone, he created one of, the best part of, the horror genre. Like, the story is a little more solid, there's a tighter script, there's even more gore here, that's brilliant, and, the acting is definitely even more improved here. Especially with Lauren Laverna, David Howard Thornton, right here. Lauren Laverna and the new boogeyman is John Art the Clown. They're perfectly well portrayed by their actor. Who's perfectly well portrayed by David Howard Thornton. This is what happens when like studios are willing to take a risk and help fund low-budget horror movies. Like the Diamond in this rough emerges. You have a bigger budget, better gore, actors on their A game here. Like, yeah, I think we can all tell that Art the Clown now is pretty much now a big staple and a new horror icon to join the list of icons like Freddy and Jason and Michael and Chucky and Ghostface. He's pretty much among that category now. So anyway, how do we start off Terrifier 3? Well, we do start off with that infamous opening sequence where this little girl thinks she hears Santa. She tries to wake up her parents, but they don't believe her, and neither does her brother. But then, of course, we do see this kind of Santa Claus coming down, but it reveals itself to be Art the Clown and brutally murders the family except for the little girl with an axe. Then, of course, we cut to like 5 years later. We cut to like, it was like 2019, around the time Terrifier 2 ended, where after Art got decapitated by Sienna. And there's a cop investigating the scene and finds Art's headless body. Then Art's headless body springs out, murders the cop, kind of takes his head on his body for a little while. Then it makes its way to the asylum where Victoria Hayes, like in the post-credit scene, Terrifier 2 just gave birth to his head. And they both murder this nurse and a guard, and they flee and enter this hibernation state in an abandoned house. Then we get the present day, which is this year. Sienna was in a hospital ever since the events of Terrifier 2. She got released from that psychiatric hospital to stay with her Aunt Jess and lives with her husband Greg and their daughter Gabby, who is known to kind of idolize Sienna, has a bit of a weird personality. But like Sienna has no knowledge of the past traumatic events, but Sienna's still haunted by visions of her like dead friends, like one of them, like the very last friend, no, it's not Allie, but it's definitely not Allie, it's the other one, I forget her name, but she has haunted by visions of them. Like one time at the dinner table, she gets haunted by the friend she went to at the party with, and she's also struggling to reconnect with her brother Jonathan, who's now in college and trying to move on with his life. So it's a bit of a role reversal here. You guys know how in Terrifier 2, where Jonathan was the one who was obsessed with Art, but his Karen mom didn't believe him, and Sienna didn't believe him at that stuff, and now Sienna's the one that's obsessed with his return, and Jonathan's now the one not believing her and trying to move on with his life. So the roles kind of do reverse here. So it's a kind of nice little touch how you kind of reverse the roles in this whole thing, where Sienna's now the obsessed one, and Jonathan's now the more trying to be the more sane one. You're just trying to move on, and yeah, they definitely don't lie about this being gorier than the second one. Because there's perfect examples of gore, where there's scenes of Art pulling flesh from the faces of his victims while they're still alive. He hacks off their limbs and heads using axes and chainsaws and freezes people with liquid nitrogen before he butchers them. And oh yeah, the shower kill that everybody's talking about, oh, that really makes the one in Psycho look very G-rated. Like, how the chainsaw kill goes is Art like busts in this chainsaw where Jonathan's roommates are taking a shower and having sex. And then of course, he busts in with the chainsaw slices them and even gets shoved up one of their bums or something, their ass. The intestines get squished and sliced open. Then he gets turned over onto his back and has the chainsaw shoved to his scrotum and completely rips it to shreds. Then his girlfriend's face gets slashed brutally with a chainsaw and cut in half, and it cuts off all of both characters' limbs and makes a snow angel in their blood like you saw in that teaser. There's a rat kill near the end of the film where this tube gets forced down this woman's mouth, and rats are then forced down to it as it eats the insides, and the character's throat will then slit and the rats come out. And apparently that scene made David Howard Thornton nearly throw up on set. And there was talk of a rat scene, and I think that's definitely the scene right there. Or like there's one bit where Art is like walks across this bar, and Santa and this friend of his named Smokey are there. That's Clint Howard's character. As he's walking past, Art gets all excited that his Santa Claus is there, and he runs into the bar. And after like a brief bit where Santa buys him a drink, Art then spits it in his face, and he's ordered to leave. But then, of course, he pretty much pistol shoots the bar owner, pistol shoots Smokey, then he ties Santa to a chair, freezes his legs with a fire extinguisher. And then they're frozen, and he smashes both his shins apart with a hammer, and freezes his hands and smashes them apart, freezes his face and smashes it apart. And after that, he pretty much gets his carrot from this made-up snowman and sticks it into his face and make this, like, kind of like this bloody corpse, like, snowman. Or there's even a bit at the mall. There's even a bit where Art goes to this mall, and he's pretending to be Santa dressed up as Santa. He's giving all the children presents, and security's like, "What are you doing?" And Art's like, "Leave." And he's like, "No." Like, giving that whole no pouty child look, and yeah, I kind of find it, I kind of find it cute how Art's just basically pretending to be Santa, and giving these, like, it's like freaking out to see Santa, excited to see Santa, and so he'll just laugh and killing him, and also find it kind of cute how he's giving all these kids presents as his fake Santa. It's just such a funny scene. He's like giving this pouty child, like, "I don't want to go," to the security guard. And kick him out, and then of course, this child opens one of the presents, and it's a bomb in a shopping center. And the entire area explodes, and the children's bodies are split in half with the gory and testy detail. Like, shit, yeah. Yeah, they do kill children in this movie, guys. That I do want to kind of point out. And, like, there's one, like, dead character that's seen hanging, like, Jesus Christ, his organ area gets open with severe and testy detail, and Sienna's face gets basically forced into it around the end. Or this one woman's head getting finally smashed between two shopping carts, and stuff like that, and it's just the brilliance of Terrifier 3 lies in the mastery of the horror formula and still brings some new to the table. And Art the Clown is back with some even more viciousness, malice, and terror, and I guess the presence alone is enough to really give many viewers the chills, and the film dives deeper into the mythos and a dark, twisted world it inhabits. And this time, like, the narrative isn't just about Art wreaking havoc. Like, there's a lot more to the story, like, especially when it comes to the main girl, Sienna. The past two films were kind of about Art wreaking havoc, while Terrifier 1 was more Art's movie. Terrifier 2 is where we got introduced to Sienna here and giving him more of a protagonist here, but those are mostly kind of about Art wreaking havoc. This time around, it's kind of more about Sienna's film, in a way. Terrifier 2 does start off like Art's film. It's when Sienna starts to slowly enter the picture and slowly becomes the protagonist film. This one is a straight-up protagonist film. Sienna, in this movie, she's the film's emotional narrative core, like from the moment she gets reintroduced. She's grown since the events of Terrifier 2. She's not just a victim, she's battling her own inner demons and the trauma Art left in his wake. There's complexity to the character that goes beyond, like, the final girl trope, and that's definitely why Terrifier 3 really stands out. Like, the story peels back layers of her past, shocking truths, and, like, changes how we view her and Art. Wait, so anyway, like, after, like, Art and Victoria escaped the asylum, they did see this cosplayer that's like, "Oh, sweet, the blood look, can I get a picture?" And they're both just like, whatever, he's not worth the kill, I guess. Let's let this guy live. They clearly let this guy live and don't really give a shit about killing him. Like, they're just focused on finding somewhere to hide, really. They just let him have the picture right there, since he clearly thinks they're people in costumes. So they go into slumber at this whole little warehouse, and then Art and Victoria get woken from their slumber when construction workers stumble upon their bodies in the abandoned house. And the duo kill the construction workers and venture off into some killing spree. Right there. And that's where, like, Art goes to this department store Santa. Department store Santa that's in the bar, where you got the bar scene where Art, like, fangirled over the Santa Claus. And then he goes to the mall, pretends to be Santa, and gives children a bunch of gifts that are, like, explosive, murderous gifts. And, like, they go off just as he gets kicked out by a security guard. And during this, though, Sienna catches a glimpse of Art in the store prior to the explosion. When she tries to tell her family, they don't believe her. And then she starts to kind of panic when she sees the news about the mall attack, and she's not really hallucinating. Then she does try to go to Jonathan and even tells about the whole thing, but of course she sees, like, one of his roommates is his podcast that thinks Sienna's the murderer, and so she does kind of snap, and, like, right here, like, Laura Laverna really does give a really well done, kind of a little emotional, like, heartbreaking performance here, like, where she does kind of, like, angrily snap, like that really shocked me in the theater. Right there, I really like that little bit right there. And there, she's, like, really trying to get people to believe her, and trying to get her own brother to believe her, because he was obsessed with this Art Clown when we first met him, but after the events of Terrifier 2, he just wants to kind of move on from his life, and all that, and we get some stuff through flashbacks, and after some more flashbacks and the little tense encounter with Jonathan I was just talking about, Sienna learns that demons can be reborn through a host, such as Victoria, and there's angels opposite to the demons. And it's believed that their father knew about all these events, so Sienna returns home with a Christmas gift in hand and places it behind the Christmas tree, and Gabby notices it. She then eventually, like, she does kind of, And she does also realize that Gabby kind of read her journal about the events, and then that obviously freaks out Sienna because apparently Gabby read all of the novel or the journal. And then she immediately sends Greg to go pick up Jonathan. So Greg goes to pick up Jonathan and waits in his car for him to come outside. But yeah, this movie is definitely a bit shorter. It does feel a lot shorter because of the shorter runtime helping the pacing immensely. It still kept me further invested in the series, and it becomes something generally fantastical. And it does overdo this side of things, and they almost do here. And I really dig what these films have and what they've definitely evolved into. The violence... yeah, the violence here is definitely still just as disgusting as the other two films. It's definitely... I'd say it's about as sadistic as the first one. It's still maybe not as sadistic as the second one's deaths, but I'd say it's about on par with the first one's deaths, but they're still pretty sadistic and still really graphic. Art the Clown is even more hilarious in this one when he's not killing people, but you still really find him a pretty despicable monster that you really do hate. You kind of love to hate him because he's still kind of really enjoyable. And definitely one of the best horror villains of this whole era. The film does not lighten up, it's ultra violent, there's no breaks from it whatsoever. Art the Clown really shows artistry in all of his violence. No one gets spared, not even children or spectators. But of course, the deaths that just make you have a fun time with horror, because as the killings unfold, and of course, the filmmakers do an incredible job evolving the Art the Clown character and not making him any less terrifying. And honestly, because of a bigger budget, he's definitely more terrifying than ever. There's something really unsettling about how he exists in this whole era. It's like a force of nature that can't be reasoned with or stopped. And it still goes further to the origins and mystery of Art, and shows glimpses of who or what he might or might not be. And with all these reveals, like Art remains very mysterious, and it only makes him much the more horrifying here. Like, they don't reveal an origin about him. They don't reveal any of that stuff. They don't reveal how he's often created, so that what really makes it work really well. They don't do any of that here, unlike a lot of horror sequels about certain villains that kind of seem to do that. Here, the practical effects of this movie are very next level. The horror fans really, will really find a lot to appreciate about this installment in the Terrifier franchise, especially with the brutal, no-holds-barred approach to gore. And the film really does not disappoint. The kills are very creative, and the makeup and prosthetics work. It's so realistic that it's hard not to really cringe or look away. And it's definitely a huge part of why there's often people that are known to be walking out of these films. The violence is very relentless and apologetic, and it never feels gratuitous for the sake of shock value, though. It's not like something like a lot of torture porn films, though. It's kind of like these fun little throwback slasher films, and each kill does serve a purpose in the story, and the build to these moments is very suspenseful. So eventually, after Greg does go to pick up Jonathan, Sienna then awakes one night and overhears Jess and Greg arguing over what to do about her. She then walks downstairs, and it turns out they aren't there, and Victoria and Art were actually impersonating them, and they invaded the house. And then, of course, Art shows up and knocks her out with a mallet, and Sienna awakes, she's tied to a chair, sees Greg's mangled body pinned to the wall, his head be used as a tree topper, and Jess is then tied up across from Sienna. And Victoria shows the pair of this skin cage head being consumed by rats. And apparently they say it's Gabby. And so Art and Victoria, they use the rats to torture and kill Jess. That's the rat scene I was talking about. And then Victoria reveals to Sienna that the head isn't actually... This was one of the reasons why the score kind of went down. Apparently... The head is literally Jonathan's. Maybe he's dead, maybe he's not dead, but I did not like that part. That's helped bring the score down for me. And I'll reveal that bit later, but we're led to believe it's Jonathan's head. Then Art enters with Gabby as a hostage, and then Victoria tries to possess Sienna, but she resists. So yeah, everyone in this movie really does give a great performance, especially Laura Laverna the most. Laura Laverna's portrayal of Sienna living with PTSD is really top-notch. Vicky in this film was really wild. Her actress really nailed it. It was nice to see her get a role in this film. The colors here are also great. You can tell this is much more of a budget this time, unlike the others where you definitely could tell it was really low budget. And they add to the mood like they did in horror films like Silent Night, Deadly Night, or Black Christmas. In fact, you could kind of call this a more proper Silent Night, Deadly Night remake. Right here, somewhat of a better follow-up to that. the audio work with the kills and the sound effects is really incredible, and you can definitely hear a lot of stuff: limbs crunch, break, squish, even impact. Like the soundtrack has never been any better. Like the soundtrack maybe could have been better because they did kind of reuse some themes from the other films. They did kind of reuse a lot of stuff from Terrifier 2. Like I feel like they could have just did something a little new with the score, but the pacing is relentless, and like it builds tension with each scene and culminates in a climax that's shocking and satisfying. And the practical effects in Terrifier 3 are really mind-blowing. There's definitely no CGI in here. I really like all these movies have practical effects and they don't try to over-rely on CGI. But here, there's still the explicit gore, there's still the brutal violence, there's still the realistic stuff in all of that. And the atmosphere is definitely very unrelenting. Yeah, like they do really good with the special effects in this whole film. What separates Terrifier 3 from what kind of like torture porn franchises, they really craft their films around how they can top the previous film's kills, such as the Saw sequels, that as those progress, they seem to care more about being gorier and gorier. This one, yeah, these films are getting gorier and gorier, but they have a story to be told. Here, they have a protagonist to focus on, and you care about the characters returning, the new ones that get introduced, and there's a focus on further fleshing out the story and the world. That's what film director Damien Leone really outdoes himself with this blood-soaked masterpiece that delivers this visceral, unforgettable experience that's already left audience members gasping for breath, reaching for vomit bags, leaving the theater again. Right here, they really don't lighten up on anything. That's what and it definitely could lead many diehard fans of these films to be chuckling with a whole bunch of glee. Right here, they really don't lighten up on anything. Like here, this film has already caused so many walkouts, and although honestly, there were times I cringed, but I didn't really see much walkout-worthy stuff here. I'd say it's about almost as gory as the first one, if not more, but honestly, I think the second one was much more graphic in terms of gore. I just think the second one was much more squeamish. This was still squeamish and graphic, no doubt, but sorry guys, remember the mask. But like this did kind of feel somewhat toned down at times, but it was still just as graphic though. It definitely wasn't like Thanksgiving levels of gore where the trailer leads you to believe it's going to be a gory grindhouse film, but then when you see the film, it's just basically a Thanksgiving wannabe Scream in the end, or just Eli Roth trying to do Scream again. But yeah, and now we get on with the finale, where Gabby pretty much requests Victoria to open this gift, for Sienna to open this gift, so Victoria allows Sienna to open a gift, but Art then smashes her hands like sadistically, and despite her mangled hands, she opens it, and it turns out to be the magic sword, so she opens it and stabs Victoria with the sword, and then decapitates Victoria, and as she's like wounding Art again with it, Victoria then starts to disintegrate, and her blood then starts to bubble, and Art's trying to attack Sienna with the chainsaw, but Sienna gains the upper hand, and it looks like she's about to kill Art again. The blood then burns through the floor, and creates this portal to hell that causes Gabby to fall and almost get sucked into it. But Sienna leaves Art behind to save her, and due to her damaged hand, Sienna's unable to save Gabby, and she sadly falls into the abyss, and shows Gabby's now trapped in hell. Art, on the other hand, has managed to escape off camera through a window. Now Sienna's left all alone, and she's gonna find a way to rescue Gabby. So I guess now you know the plot of Terrifier 4. Obviously, Sienna's gonna enter hell to go get Gabby out of it, and while having to be on the run from Art the Clown. In a way, maybe. But then Art then boards a bus, and as this lady on the bus is reading this book called Ninth Circle and saying that she's not liking it, and then the driver's saying that Frankenstein's a great story, Art boards the bus, and the bus driver and the female pastor are unsettled, and then like he's just there, and he slowly holds up this little horn honk thing that Victoria had in the beginning, and then he opens his mouth and grins again, just to give one last jump scare to the audience, and that's how the film ends. It pretty much ends on a cliffhanger. Ends up like the setup for Terrifier 4, because Damien Leone has said a Terrifier 4 is going to happen. And I wouldn't be surprised if it does, because it's already made a huge profit opening weekend, so I can see it getting confirmed very quick soon. Already getting a release date very soon, but yeah, a fourth one is going to happen. And that's the end of Terrifier 3. And Art won't be back until Terrifier 4. Now, do I have bad qualities with the film? it's okay. The bad quality is that, yeah, despite the bit of a better budget this time, there's some scenes that do look a little too cheap, and the pacing is perfect, but there are some rough line deliveries and inconsistent acting from some minor characters. It does tie the first movie and the second movie together in a way that did feel a little bit rough earlier, and yeah, one of the reasons the score went down quite a bit, almost, was that Jonathan presumably dies, because, yeah, remember Terrifier 2 when Sienna almost died going to save Jonathan at the carnival, and then beat the shit out of Art the Clown, decapitated his fucking head? That's kind of pointless if he's dead. You just kind of made the finale of Terrifier 2 pointless. Because then again, a lot of certain characters in horror franchises has to fucking die. I mean, the whole point of the finale of Terrifier 2 was Sienna going to rescue her brother Jonathan from Art in an abandoned carnival. She gets there, and it's epic to see her fuck Art up to chunks of flesh, decapitate his head. Yeah, we know he'd be coming back, obviously, but it's still fucking satisfying. Right there, it was still fucking epic to see somebody actually give Art a taste of his own medicine. This movie just... I guess he might not be dead, but suppose if Elliot is too old to reprise his role and doesn't come back for Terrifier 4, suppose if he doesn't want to come back for the role, suppose if that happens, then they just made Terrifier 2's finale mean nothing more. Now, I'm sorry guys, if he did die, the character really did not need to presumably die. I'm sorry, he did not. Like, I really hope, and it's giving me vibes that I really hope Damien Leone does not do, and I really hope Damien Leone does not kill off Sienna to end the franchise. Like, I can bet this road's probably going to be going. If they do that, I'm going to be pissed off, because, of course, a lot of characters in a horror franchise always gotta fucking die. As first off, like, the lead in Friday the 13th Part 1, she dies in Friday the 13th Part 2. Sally from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, she dies in this shitty Netflix film from 2022, using only one gun and Leatherface, and gets killed pathetically. Paxton J. Hernandez in Hostel Part 2 gets fucking killed off in the beginning. The survivors in Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Joey Kincaid, Christy, they all fucking die in Elm Street 4. Cotton Weary dies in Scream 3, Dewey dies in Scream 5. Oh, Chief Brody apparently dies in the shitty Jaws the Revenge in a flashback. Apparently Doug's infant daughter died in the graphic novel The Hills Have Eyes, called Hills Have Eyes Beginning, which is apparently not canon, but still. So yeah, of course, it's typical. A lot of characters in horror fucking die. Every good character in horror has to fucking die. Like, I'm just so sick and tired of that shit. Oh yeah, also, we also killed off Ellen Ripley Newton Hicks in Alien 3. Can't forget that too. And then we have to kill off Captain Spaulding. Yeah, he's a villain, but that's still kind of a disrespectful send-off to Sid Haig's legacy. Because Sid Haig died the time 3 from Hell came out, so it's still disrespectful for fans of the character, and disrespectful for fans of Sid Haig and Sid Haig's legacy. And then they kill off Danny Trejo in Devil's Rejects and 3 from Hell as well. Then again, that's how every franchise has to end. People have to fucking die. And the finale did kind of feel a little bit anticlimactic. I can kind of admit that. But other than those, Terrifier 3, it's still a worthy horror film and totally worth buying the best horror movie of this year. Easily, no doubt. So in the end, if you love the first 2 Terrifier movies, you're going to love this one too, so it's totally worth buying for your collection for sure. And if you want them back in the horror tone and weren't too happy with the second one's more fantasy-like tone, this one will make you much more satisfied. Anyways, guys, that's it for my review of Terrifier 2. That's it for my review of Terrifier 3. And if we're going to rate Terrifier 3, here's how I'm going to rank this movie.
So overall, if you loved 1 and 2, you will no doubt enjoy this one as much as those ones, so it's totally worth watching and buying for your collection, no doubt, especially if you want a brand new Christmas-themed horror film. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Terrifier 3, I'm going to give Terrifier 3 a 9 out of 10. Alright, there we go, guys. Unfortunately, I'm just going to finish off the review, stop wearing the mask, because the mask is kind of a little hard to speak out of or breathe out of, but I'm not going to redo the review, because I've already filmed this, but yeah, sorry about the constant pausing, guys. I was trying to calm down so I wouldn't run out of breath in that mask. But I wanted to wear that mask because I did that because I wore it with the trailer reactions, so why not just wear it for the review? Yeah. Now, I want to know in the comments down below what you guys saw at Terrifier 3, if you've already seen it, whether you loved it, whether you hated it. And until then, guys, that'll be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this, want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.